In this video, we will configure and launch our first instance on EC2. Let's go to the AWS Management Console and then proceed to the EC2 page. So the EC2 page should give you a snapshot of the current activity with respect to EC2 instances on AWS. So let's go ahead and click on the instances page. And since we don't have any instances currently running, let's go ahead and launch a brand new instance. So then it opens this wizard which allows you to configure the instance that you're about to launch. Before we launch any instances, I want you to go ahead and confirm that we are actually running EC2 from US East or Northern Virginia zone. Okay, once that's confirmed, let's continue configuring the instance. For this demo, we are just gonna stick with the Amazon Linux default Linux AMI that's available. But in many projects, we will be giving you an AMI ID that you need to use to launch the instance. Those you should be able to find in community AMIs. If you just simply type in the AMI ID in this search box, you should be able to find it. But for the demo, we're just going to stick with the regular AMI, the Amazon Linux AMI, the latest version that they have, 64-bit. So we'll just select that. Next, it'll ask you to choose an instance type. And since we're just doing a quick demo, we don't need a lot of power, and we might as well use an instance that Amazon provides for us for free. We're just going to select the micro instance, and then just click on the next button to configure the instance details. Here it'll ask you things like the number of instances, whether you want to purchase it using spot. If you check this box, it's going to ask you for what your bid price is right now. So it's going for about 0.3 cents an hour, so you could bid something slightly higher than that if you would like to get a spot instance. We're just going to go with the regular on-demand instance for this demo. And then you have options to configure the network, IAM role, monitoring. These are things that we will not need for the first couple of projects, but may be useful in the later projects. And you will be asked to use some of these options in later projects. But for now, we'll just keep them as is. Next, we can add storage. This is a micro instance that does not have any local storage associated with it, so the wizard's going to give you the option to just select an EBS volume that's a root EBS volume that you can attach to this instance. 8 gigs of data is more than enough for our demo purpose, and we're just going to stick to the magnetic volume type, although you can choose SSDs now with your EBS volumes. We're just going to stick to magnetic disks. In the next page, it's going to ask you to tag your instance. We'll just put in a name so that's easy for us to identify. We'll call it 15319 video. In addition to this, we have to add another tag, so we'll just call this 15319 project, and we'll just say primer. So remember that you need to tag your instances with an additional key value pair. Just look at the project details to see what you need to add for each project. This is required because this is what we use to keep track of the resources allocated by students for the course, so we can get a view of for each project how many instances does each student use. So this is very important, very crucial. You need to make sure that you tag your instances appropriately. In the next page, we will be configuring the security group for this instance. So by default, it'll a security group with SSH on port 22 running anywhere. From any source will be applicable to this instance. And this is okay for now because all we need to do is we just need to connect to this instance via SSH and play around with it for this demo. So this is fine. But remember that and for the course also, this is fine if you accept any incoming SSH connection on 22 from any IP address. But in the real world, you need to be careful because you probably want to restrict the allowed sources to a subnet of IP. So if you were really careful about security, for example, you would say, you know what, allow SSH connections, but only from within CMU. So then you'd enter CMU's IP range here to make sure that no other person, maliciously or through fraudulent means tries to connect to your instance. Alright, and finally we can review and launch the instance. Amazon's going to show you this prompt asking if you would like to use an SSD instance. Since this is just a demo, we're going to stick to the magnetic instance for this demo. So let's just hit next. And finally, it's going to ask you to confirm your settings. So it'll show you the AMI you're using. It's going to show you the instance type, what security group you have. You can open up these sections to see additional information on these properties of your instance. So once that's done, and once everything looks satisfactory, you can just click on the launch icon. And now it's going to ask you to select a key pair that you're going to use to connect to this instance. So as discussed in the previous video, to connect to an instance via SSH, you're going to have a key pair. You have to be in possession of a key pair file that will let you connect to the instance. Since this is a fresh account, and most probably this will be the case with you as well, is that you'd have to create a new key pair. So just enter a name, for example 15319 demo. That's going to be the name of the key pair. Now Amazon's going to generate a key. I believe this will be a RSA key for you to use with your instance. So this key will be downloaded as a .pem or PEM file, and you can use this in your SSH client to connect to the instance. Once everything's okay, launch. You can click on launch an instance. Also, be sure to note that once you download a private key file, Amazon typically gives this to you only once. Similar to the access key ID and secret access key, once you download it, you need to keep them safe, because Amazon's not going to provide this key to you again for security reasons. Or if you lose this, you'll have to create another key pair, so make sure it's stored safely. Once everything's fine, we'll just click on launch instances, and it'll initiate the process. And if you click on the view instance, you'll be led back to the instances page where you can see all of your running instances. And as you can see, there's this one instance that's pending execution. So we'll wait for that to start up, and then we'll initiate the process of connecting to it.